What impact does the situation with the war in the Persian Gulf have on Ukraine? Do we have any consequences for the front? Everyone sees that Iran is launching Shaheds in all countries, how they are shut down. In this regard, are Ukraine's allies approaching us about the fact that they are interested in our interceptors? If so, will Ukraine offer them, for example, the exchange of our interceptors for those types of weapons that are critically necessary for Ukraine? Thank you.
First of all, let's discuss the weapons. Your last sentence. The leaders of the Middle East. Different countries have not yet addressed us directly. I did not talk about this with the leaders. It is difficult to respond to the request because it did not actually exist. There are many different messages of different levels, there are contacts. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs diplomats are communicating, but there were no proposals or direct requests. Next. As for our capabilities, they know our experience, our capabilities. We defend ourselves. Right now, it's also very important that everyone sees that even with such a large amount of air defense in the Middle East, you can see that Shaheds are still getting through. They're getting through because of the large number, including missiles, Iranian drones, and so on. These are essentially the same Shaheds that are reaching us. We are shooting down a large percentage. I think now all our partners absolutely understand the high level of our specialists, our military. If there is a request, we will respond to the request. Of course, it is easy to send our teams of specialists. I answered reporters today, they asked me, I said, look, the Middle East has close economic ties and relations with the Russian Federation, and has influence. If they give a signal to Russia regarding a ceasefire, for example, for some time, a month or 2 months, then we can send and protect the civilian population, send our specialists. And this is what I said using the example of Great Britain. We have a centennial security agreement. And if, God forbid, there were strikes on such partners or they had certain risks, we would certainly send our people. This is understandable. But if our partners reach out to us, they can come to us, and we are ready to train them. As for the exchange of weapons, we have an interest in this, we have our capabilities, and you know what we produce, and there is a shortage. And the countries of the Middle East have, in fact, this deficit, how to fill it and solve our problems. Therefore, we will be ready for contact. That's why the diplomats received the order from me, and they are in communication. As for the impact, it depends. My feeling, it is not very, let's say, only optimistic. Why? Let me explain. What positivity is here? Everyone understood that Russia is not a guarantor of any security and is not a strong ally, because this is not the first time. Syria, now Iran. We see that Iran has no support. Maybe they give back certain missiles or transfer their weapons. I think the air defense systems are handed over by the Russians. I don't know the details, honestly, but they will not be able to help Iran. All their troops, all their combat-ready forces, are all on our land in the war against us. And this once again emphasizes the limitations of their influence both in that direction and in principle. And from the less positive side, in my opinion, if the war is long and there is a shortage of air defense systems among the Middle Eastern partners, there will be a shortage of air defense. You can see that they use air defense against Shaheds. This means that, look, there are probably not as many missiles as drones the Iranians have. Or the consumption is still very large. And so these are risks for us, certainly in terms of quantity. So far, we have not received any signals regarding the reduction of programs. But, thank God, we ourselves are friends with logic and can understand what might happen, what risks there could be.
Please. Mr. President, Thank you for the opportunity. If I may, a brief clarification. Seeing these footage of Shahed hits on skyscrapers, can you state that the world was not ready for the new tactical war you have been constantly talking about? And the question is still about the enemy's plan for this spring. You have already noted that they continue to attack infrastructure. And as for the front, what does intelligence tell you? What sectors do they want to attack? And so, will they need new people? I am talking about mobilization. You said that Putin has not yet made a decision on a new wave of mobilization. Perhaps there is new information?
There is no new information about mobilization. If there had been a general mobilization, we would all know about it because it would have been a serious challenge, at least for us. I think there would have been a challenge within the Russians as well, but we didn't have such information. Regarding their plans for 2026-2027, we received the documents. We received documents, plans for 2025 to 2027, a little outdated for 2025. We see that they have not fulfilled their goals. We received the 2026-2027 plans, we understand what they want, and we understand that their directions remain relevant. Occupation of the east of our country, namely Donetsk and Luhansk regions. They definitely want to continue the direction of the Zaporizhzhia region, the Dnipro direction. It's also difficult for them, but they are looking at the Odessa region. We see these directions, but these maps, look, they have nothing to do with reality yet because they cannot complete the task. Today's offensive operation, the one they were preparing for this spring, heavily depended on the foundation they were building by the end of 2025. They did not complete the tasks by the end of 2025. Their maps do not coincide with reality, where our forces are and where their forces are. They cannot launch the March offensive exactly the one they wanted. I don't know if it will be in the spring or when. And they want to advance. So far, we don't see the possibility of them accomplishing the task that we saw on the maps. But everything depends on contracts, offensives, weapons, the supply of weapons to us, and also on our production. This is about. Is there anything else you ask me?
The world was not ready.
The world was not ready. We talked about it. Pay attention to the irritation of drones in the Polish direction and so on. No one is ready. There were 19 or 23, I don't remember, drones. Similarly, few people talked about it in the Romanian direction. And there were also these simulations from some other states. Simulations of, a large-scale attack. But, of course, these were isolated attacks. Now we see a massive attack. This is what we talked about. The world is not ready. No air defense systems like the Patriots, even with the number of divisions that the Middle East has, can withstand the amount of Shaheds that Ukraine is withstanding today. Why? Because 300, 500 is simply impossible. There are not so many missiles. Yes, the Middle East, they are rich countries, they have a lot in warehouses. But the supplies are running out. And how many PAC-3 anti-ballistic missiles are produced in the world? 50 to 60 a month is produced in the United States. The largest, main manufacturer of these missiles. Therefore, this is a serious challenge. Other weapons are needed. You need to know how aviation fights against drones. The experience that Ukrainians have. You need to have mobile fire groups. They need to have interceptor drones, appropriate systems, and systems like ours, which we replace every 6 months. Sometimes there are issues and we replace every year or two, but in some facilities, the electronic warfare systems are replaced every 3 months. Who will be in peacetime in the relevant countries we are talking about, who will change electronic warfare systems every 6 months? No one will. Of course, today they work, and 6 months later new technologies, they no longer work. Therefore, this is a great challenge.
Mr. President, the situation regarding the Druzhba oil pipeline continues to develop, and you have already spoken with Fico. Has he agreed on the date of the visit? Because there has been no communication from them. You proposed the 6th or 9th of March, and you proposed Kiev. He wanted somewhere in the EU countries. Have there been contacts with Orban? Because he claims that he has seen satellite images that the oil pipeline is not damaged, and this is Ukraine's political decision not to supply Russian oil to Hungary and Slovakia. What do you say to this?
From the satellites. From the satellite you can see the technical tanks. One large tank is torn there. This is what can be seen. You won't see the remote from a satellite. And how about the pipe underground? Maybe Orban is a magician and sees what is happening with the pipe. Everything happens. That's why I had a conversation with Fico, with the Prime Minister. I told him that you need to solve this issue. Please, come. He said that. We just want to know the date of recovery. I told him. Look, first of all, if you ask if Ukrainians have the will to do this, I told him. To do what? Transit of Russian oil? Just the transit of Russian oil, so that the Russians earn money and then spend it on the enemy war. No one has a desire. There are contacts with Europe. If European leaders ask us to do this, we must understand what the price is. I explain what the price is. The first strike, which was on this pipeline. After the first strike, we restored everything. There was not a single appeal to the Russians not to hit the oil pipeline. We have seen it publicly. But there were public appeals to Ukrainians. They say, this is the energy security of Hungary and Slovakia. When our people were recovering, there was another combat situation, there were people wounded. Has someone heard from Orban or from Fico? We are very grateful to Ukraine, or I feel very sorry for the family, relatives who suffered. Not a word, except that we owe them again. I said, what is this price? And to the European leaders. What's the price? People have to die. What do you want? Should be wounded. And you will continue to block everything for Ukraine. And what is everything? 90 billion, a sanctions package, clusters, Ukraine's path to the European Union. That is, there is no feedback. That's why I said to Fico, do you see how many challenges? I invite you. Come to Ukraine. He understood me, said, okay. Then what about the dates? Any date. Our teams will get in touch and we will provide dates. After my call, diplomats worked, proposed the dates from the 6th to the 9th of March. Please choose a date. We have heard media feedback. Let's meet in some state. In which state should I meet Fico? What does this mean? Where does Druzhba pipeline pass? In France, in Germany, in Malta, where? In Ukraine. I invited him. He confirmed that he would come. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. President. I would like to ask. First, the following general question. What impact does the war in Iran, in the Persian Gulf have on the war in Ukraine, both on the battlefield and on the diplomatic front? And in such conditions, do such negotiations that will take place soon, do they have any chance? Thank you.
We are ready for negotiations. We do not associate these events. Negotiations should be from the 5th, dates from the 5th to the 8th or to the 9th day of this month. We planned negotiations in Abu Dhabi. It was a proposal from the American side. If, due to the events in the Gulf or in the corresponding war, the events will shift the date or the city, we are ready for another city, another country. We are ready to meet in Switzerland. We are ready to meet, by the way, in Turkey. I said today. Both Turkey and Switzerland were those platforms, just like the Emirates. Therefore, we are ready to meet. Let's see what progress can be. Moreover, there is an important issue. In addition to all issues, there is the issue of exchanges. We hope that due to the challenges that exist in the Middle East today, maybe the exchange can be done a little earlier and not associated with the meeting. But again, let's see. And how the war affects, I have already said everything. This does not affect the battlefield in any way yet. As for air defense, there are risks. If there is a long war, there will certainly be risks. It affects oil. We have seen the prices. The price increase, for sure, is not a plus for us. Russia can make more money on this. And as for how the war affects geopolitically, Russia has lost everything geopolitically. That's it.
Mr. President, there is a serious risk to energy security in the regions. What can you say about alternative guaranteed sources for energy security, including from Azerbaijan?
By the way, we recently met with the president of Azerbaijan, with Ilham Aliyev. We talk about our joint projects, both oil and gas projects. Our teams will meet. I was also invited by the president. Our teams will find a date for a visit to Azerbaijan. This is very important for us. You've seen what's happening, by the way. This also relates to the Hungarian and Slovakian issue. You have seen that we have two pipes, an oil pipeline, and we have Odessa-Brody. And the Russians, what did they do? Before they destroyed Druzhba, they destroyed Odessa-Brody. There were several hits there. Why do they do it? So that only one pipeline works, so that this possibility does not work, so that others cannot supply their oil. That is, the Russians did it, and in fact, no one asked questions. By the way, I know that Azerbaijan works with Europe, and there are many different contacts as well. We talked with the president of Azerbaijan. He knows that we have the largest gas storage facility in Europe. You know that 30 billion cubic meters, and about half of it, a little less, is basically free and can be used. I think we can have a mutually beneficial partnership here. By the way, you reminded me about energy security, where there is lying from the relevant countries, what Orban said. I met with the Prime Minister of Croatia, Andrej Plenković. He showed me how he provides the same volume that Slovakia and Hungary need for a year. By the way, he is ready to provide. He says Orban just doesn't really want to buy. I asked him, Andrej, why? Well, because there is a European price and there is a Russian price. That's it. Someone earns. It is clear who.